So I lost a bit of my video there. Just at the end, we were able to see the application of Resolene on the card slots. It looks pretty good now. It's had a time to dry. It doesn't take long to dry. I use the leather sheen on this one. The leather sheen is not as glossy, oddly enough, as the Resolene. However, I actually I want to try something that I never tried before with the leather sheen. I can tell it's more creamy in the way that and you'll see when I try it later on how it looks when it's being applied compared to the Resolene. But if you look at the edge here, you can see it looks like there's a bit of washing happening at the ends, and that tells me just by looking at it, something about the way that it interacts with the leather, the way that it works, especially compared to Resolene that I have a lot of experience with. So I'm gonna be trying something. I'm gonna actually sand this really softly, not now, but when we're done at the finished product stage. I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna apply a layer of Resolene just to ensure that the dye does not have any opportunity to leak, and then I'm gonna sand it again to smooth it out, and then I'm gonna apply another layer of the leather sheen. Now with Resolene and with these others, but with Resolene in particular, you can apply any amount of coats that you want. It's entirely up to you. I normally do for a good finished product, I normally do 2 or 3 coats. Just put it on, and then I just wait, and then when it dries, put on another coat, and then when it dries, put on another coat. But you have to get accustomed to how Resolene works if you want to ensure that you don't make like compounded layers in certain areas that end up discoloring your product. So yeah, the one of the main reasons I prefer to put Resolene at the end as well is because it coats your threading as well, and it protects it from dirt and stuff and same way it does the leather. So it's a great thing to keep in mind with respect to the Resolene. Now I'm ready to move on, right? We're gonna cut out the leather in a bit. Now we haven't done we did the template for this, we did the template for the card pockets, but we haven't done the templates for the inner pocket. Where is it? Here we go. The inner pocket yet, because we're doing that with a different leather. I'm sorry, I have to turn the fan on because my phone is overheating, so please excuse the noise. But yeah, we're gonna need to have, we're gonna use a different leather for this. Okay, what's going on with the exposure? Whew. So we'll get to that, but before we do that, because we're finished dyeing and we want to move on, I want to just clean up this mess a little bit, and the easiest way for me to do that is to use something that's alcohol based. I'm not using acetone or anything corrosive in that way. Soap and water probably would work, but in this particular case I'm using just a regular surface sanitizer that's alcohol based, and I don't like to spray directly on the table, simply because it spreads when you spray. It bounces off and spreads on everything. So I spray directly into something like a magic eraser sponge or something, and then I'm just gonna give it a quick wipe down. I'm not trying to get it perfectly clean, just want to get the major things that could potentially tarnish sorry about the noise, potentially tarnish the rest of the work. So you always have a clean working surface area, and we're okay here. It's not perfect, it's enough. It's good enough. All right, so we put that away, put this away. Normally I might take a paper towel and just give it another quick wipe down to get the off. Yeah. And finally, always good to have a brush, or you can get one of those tiny hand broom and dustpan things that could fit on top of your desk, and just dust off your area and always get a clean working area. Clean area, ready to work on the cut the other leather. But I wanted to take this opportunity, because now we're gonna cut leather. I want to take the other opportunity to talk about tools one time. And in terms of tools, I want to talk about blades and knives and cutting in general. When you are working with tools, one of the best ways to tell a good tool from a bad tool, or a good version of a tool from a bad version of a tool, is to ask not necessarily what makes a tool good, but also ask what makes a tool bad. Let's take a knife, any knife. What makes a knife good? Well, it's comfortable to hold. That's one, right? It's a good weight, etc. That adds to the comfort. It cuts well. That's obviously probably the primary thing, right? So a bad tool will give you bad cuts or make it difficult to cut. A good tool or a good knife would make it easy to cut, and that's your benchmark. Also, it does not wobble when you try to cut. It does not bend too much or bend out of place when you try to cut. It doesn't break on you. It's safe to use overall, and those are the things that make it good. A bad knife would be unsafe, unbalanced, uncomfortable, dull, and just odd in different ways that make it a challenge to use. If your tool does not, if you have to be focusing on your tool, you have the wrong tool. Your tool should be that transparent piece that gets the work done for you. And I can tell you something. In leathercraft, you will spend money on leather and tools. Those are your main things. Yes, you will have to buy things like hardware. Hardware includes little items like these. Things that are, I got this as a gift actually from Lonsdale Leather when I bought some leather. They gave me this for free. These are like controls that you would use on your leather pieces, and you rivet it into the back, and they do give you the rivet ends, obviously, to use. These things are what you call hardware. Things like ornaments, decorations, things that allow you to do things like fast snap fasteners rather. All these things are considered hardware, and belt buckles and all of those things, those are hardware. And you would be buying a lot of that. You'd be buying a lot of leather. You'd be buying a lot of finishers, dyes, all these things. But you see, tools, this is where you don't cheap out. And by that, I don't mean buy the most expensive at all. You can buy one thing that is super fancy, works well, and costs $500 when you can buy something that is not as fancy, works just as well, and costs $100. In this field, however, it's a kind of get what you pay for situation up to a point. The law of diminishing returns applies here, meaning you can buy something and the more you spend, the better it gets up to a point. After that point, the more you spend, the less the improvement is. So when you get to this certain period, this certain part in your or bracket in your spending higher than that doesn't mean you're getting a lot of improvement, and it's just not worth it. And that's the law of diminishing returns. So let me show you some of the knives that I have. I've collected over the years. When I say collected, I've been buying over the years and using, and show you what I end up using most as a result. And this is just a quick sample. For out and out knives, cutting leather, I use tools like these. I tend to stick with certain brands if I like them. Alpha or LFA, that's one of my favorite brands in terms of these kind of disposable type of knives. Just buy the wheels, and these run really well. They cut really well. They're great for fabric other than leather, lining, polyester, and different things like that. I have another one that I picked up just recently in a craft store because I wanted this particular shape, and this one works so well. I can buy like the Alpha brand blades if I wanted and just use this, and this will last me the next 10 years easily. These, of course, are utility knives. This is a cheap one from Tactics, but I ended up keeping this and holding on to this because this one is die cast, so it's nice and it feels good and it's cold in the hand, which I actually like. But one thing I love about it is it's so smooth in its action, and it's so sturdy and confident when you're using it that it feels like it's made for your hand. I love this knife, right? I also use, in terms of utility knives, I use this particular Stanley. I like, now, as I said, I designate certain blades for certain tasks, and I do that. That's my thing. I just like doing that, but I do that because Also primarily because it helps me to organize my work area. I just simply don't like having one thing to do everything. I'm not that kind of person. This one is really heavy, and it's great when cutting high ounce leather, especially when you have to do a quick cut. But then again, the rotary ones work quite well. This, and then a nice example of why I like to separate my blades too, is like this one, I will only cut something that has adhesive with it. So like this piece of leather here is actually just stuck in the middle with contact cement, and I would not use this blade to cut it. I would use this one and cut the piece, and therefore if adhesive gets rubbed off, in fact on the on the side of this is a whole lot of adhesive from cutting, but I do try to clean it, and I just switch the blade, and I have a sharpener for this blade too. I don't really use it that much, just change the blade. Now these are your disposable types of knives. You've already seen this kind of knife, which is your what we call your NT cutters, and there are many housings made for these that you can get. I've tried many. This was a nice one at a point until I discovered a feature where when you actually start to cut, there's a spring action that pulls it, and I do not like that because it reduces my precision. So while a lot of people might swear by it, I have unsworn by it. And another nice one is this. This was a really neat little design, just a slimline, and you have to focus on the little things, the shape here, the thickness, and the the dimensions of it, because these things affect how it feels when you're cutting. And I can't tell you enough that if you have to go along with your tool and fight that leather, you have a problem. If you can go through your tool and your tool does the work, then you are set, right? You have this kind. I have a golden version of this too. It's just bought because it looked really good. But another set, these, like for example, these are the same earlier mentioned X-Acto blades. I'm not a big fan of these. They have a good profile, yes, but the blades go way too fast, and to change them is too much trouble when you compare it to changing one of these. You push it out, snap it off, and you go. That's just me. And these are more expensive when you have to buy more blades. Granted, the blades here are a little sturdier than these, but still, by the time I get through a row of this, when you buy blades, buy in bulk so that you don't have packs of these. And I'm not going to run out anytime soon. Also the blades for the utility knives as well, buy them in packs. For the blades that are mostly fixed like these, this is a very nice little knife. You unscrew actually to loosen it and pull out this blade. This blade is replaceable. This blade lasts quite a bit longer than these. This is what you call a double-sided blade, not a double bevel blade, meaning there's a flat side here, but the edge of it goes down to a bevel, and on this side the edge of it goes down to a bevel, so it connects in the middle like a V. This is like your standard kitchen knife or any other regular pen knife that you have. If you're gonna cut leather with this, make sure you know that, and I'm gonna show you why. A very popular one you see online is this. This is the indispensable, I guess, whatever you want to call it, knife. This particular design is actually made by if I get it right, I think it's a company that made it, and they made the design open source, so it's not patented, meaning there were a lot of companies that picked up on the design because it seemed very popular. It's made of this one is made of brass. I've seen steel, I've seen wood, I've seen all sorts of different ones, and it just has these two screws to fasten it. Sometimes they modify it, but the common design is fast. Why this is good is because there's a level of standardization in the market. Now if you look at the blade I have in here, this blade is designed for this particular knife. Now let me show you something. If you look at this, these blades, these are all blades that I've ordered over a period of time that are designed for this same type of format. The reason I have so many is because it's one of the things that makes a blade good or makes a blade bad that we spoke about. A good blade is made of good steel, and the reason that's important is that it holds the edge that you have. When you have an edge that stays, then you have an edge that cuts well for a longer period of time. Okay, you hit it on the strop, which we'll get into, but you hit it on the strop and you keep going and you keep going and you keep going. If you have to keep resharpening a blade, then there's something wrong. It's either too soft or the profile is not the right angle to give you a good cut. I want you to pay attention though to these particular blades. This is flat. Let me see if I get a close up here. This is flat. If the light is right, it's flat all the way down. But then if I turn it over, you see that there is a bevel right on the edge. That's the piece that cuts. So it's shaped like an isosceles. I don't know. It's not shaped like this. If you look at it from the angle down, it's shaped like this. So this whole area is flat, and this is where it cuts. And this is what you call a single-sided bevel. But you can have more than one bevel on the edge, meaning it goes like, it's faceted. It goes like this, then this, then this. And that gives you different qualities and properties about how your cutting surface is. This is the difference. As I said, this is a double sided. This is single sided. If you are custom cutting single sided, it means that when you prop this end up against your work, you know exactly where it's going to cut. But if you take a double sided one, in fact I think one of these is double sided. Yes, this one has two sides. As you can see, it's beveled on both sides. You have to know where the middle is at all times. So you're gonna be a little off center to make sure that your blade lines up, and then you go ahead and cut. If you are familiar with it and accustomed to it, then no problem. Now this particular knife blade as well is designed for, you can buy these blades that are like these, or they could be a little hooked. You can find them online. While these cost me round about $5, $10 for the better ones, this particular blade cost me about $70 at the time, I believe. And the reason is because it's not your run-of-the-mill Chinese-made blade. Nothing's wrong with Chinese-made stuff. I'm just saying that's where they were made. I'll show you. This particular blade is what I call a Charter-made blade, and Charter-made is the brand. This guy, you guys need to check him out. He's a leather crafter who became a bladesmith, and he makes and sells all sorts of premium quality, pricey but worth the investment type of leather cutting materials, leather cutting blades. And his wife, literally, she engraves every single blade by hand. And he doesn't just make these types of blades, by the way. He makes full-on knives, head knives, crescent knives, skiving knives, paring knives. Just look up Charter-made and you're good to go. He has a YouTube channel as well with tutorials as well on how to sharpen. And that's the other thing. If you're getting into blades, guys, understand how to sharpen them, keep them honed, keep them polished, keep them ready to work by understanding the steel and understanding the nature of blades. And that's something that you're gonna probably have better luck finding someone who's an expert on that online, or who's better off in that respect than I am. I have built many blades of my own, but you have to understand it, because it's going to make the difference between you. Why use a tool that you have to keep looking up something about it if you don't take the time to understand the tool? It makes no sense. There's also these I've forgotten the name. And by the way, so I'm left-handed, right? So when I use this, these screws get in the way. I could file them down and smoothen them, but I'm just not. Why do I need to go through that trouble? Right? So buying blades has always been a bit of a process for me because of my left-handedness, right? So keep that in mind. A lot of the time you will see knives that are labeled as right-handed and left-handed, but what they really mean is right-sided and left-sided. And if you buy the wrong direction, it's going to be a pricey mistake. So other knives like that, well, I've shown you this before. This was one that I found online. I just like how it looked. I gave it my own handle, but I use it to cut soft leathers because I like how the crescent of the blade is. It's perfect the way that I like to hold it when I'm cutting certain aspects of soft leathers. Those are dime a dozen too. All those you get on AliExpress or wherever you want to shop, or even those leather sites. This is a brand called Al Stolman, and it's a very good brand, very solid brand. This is a trim knife. This one's pretty sharp. This other knife is also a trim knife. This is from the Osborne company, and if you know anything about leather tools and machinery, you know that Osborne is top of the line stuff. This is excellent for like when you have to do trim work and have to pull toward you. So the blade is actually on the inside of this curve. It's kind of like batter side type of thing. But this one, these last couple ones are very popular as well. Very popular as well. So this one uses it's actually standardized in terms of the size, but it uses a scalpel blade, and they can get curved, you can get straight. They seem like a fantastic idea. Maybe I'd use it for like small pieces of thin, very flimsy leather or something to that effect, or maybe even cloth materials. And then there's this. I put heat shrink on this because this was just like solid brass, but this knife also has had quite a bit of work, but the thing is, this is on the opposite side. This is actually left-sided, not left-handed, so the flat cutting area is on the left side, and it's gonna cause me problems trying to line up my cutting area. So that's my issue with a lot of these many fancy knives. But ultimately, the one that I use to cut the leather the most is this NT cutter here. It's made of plastic. It's very comfortable. It's smooth, and it just uses the same 9mm blade. 9mm 30-degree blade. That's what you need to remember. 9mm 30-degree blade. Finally, skiving knives. These are the knives that you're going to be using to trim the thickness of your leather in certain areas, to skive the edges, which is to narrow down an edge, which you're going to have to do in a bit. I've had many. There are many cheap ones. You get them with kits and stuff like the one I showed you in the intro video where I demonstrated a kit. But these are the ones that I kept longest and used the most in different scenarios and different circumstances for different purposes and to different ends. So there's one more I'm looking for, but I can't find it. It's not too important. The one that, so here we go. I might as well open it up, and it's just a round blade. This is excellent when you have to do certain types of paring on the edge of leather, and again, don't worry, I will be showing you how to do it. It's extremely sharp. This one is also well, actually I shouldn't say all of them are super sharp and polished. This one is rounded as well. This is kind of a French. This is considered a French type of skiving knife. It's long and it's flat and it's not angled, but you can get the ones that are angled, either left or right or center, and you can get them straight or curved in their angle. This is a brilliant piece. I love these that have a flat profile here, and you'll see why. You'll see why. But there is benefit to the others, which are like these that have a thick profile. Anyway, as we're on this topic, this one is a completely flat piece. There's a little ridge here for what you call it, traction. Anyway, but this is really built for a right-handed person if you use it right side up. If you use it upside down, it's perfectly good for a left-handed person. All of these you can shave with, right? This one is what you call actually call a paring knife. You can use these knives in like mostly you see them in bookmaking, shoemaking and whatnot, but it's the same concept. This one I got specifically for its design because I'm left-handed, so to get to the edge I need my the angle facing this way with my bevel up. If I try to do that with this, that's not working, which means I'm gonna have to turn the leather to face me and do it backward, which is, I mean, you can work it if you have no choice, but don't ask why I have it. That's the only thing. The next thing is this and this. Two examples of Japanese style skiving knives. This one more than likely is probably my most used one, and it's getting a little rust on it, but that's because I mess around with a little bit of the don't worry, just know that it's super sharp, know that it works really well, and because it's Japanese style in terms of where the blade is, it gets you a certain orientation with your hand to go ahead and get a nice angle that you want and maintain that angle. This becomes a problem if you're skiving on a flat surface, which is why when you're doing skiving, I recommend on top of a piece of glass or a tile or something elevated. And finally this one, which is the same concept, but you can see that it's angled. This is even better for me. I don't like though that it's so short. This one is made by Wuta, which is a brand I told you that it's inexpensive, but it's a good brand, right? And that's the blades, right? There are people who would buy one of these and use this for everything, cutting leather, skiving leather, and that's perfectly fine. Don't ever think I'm saying that it's not, okay? Again, it's entirely up to you because it's your craft you're building. So now that we've gone through the knives and we know which knives we're going to use and we have a good understanding of what the variety is, let us go straight into setting the leather for this piece and cutting one time, and then we're going to look at how we begin to prep the leather for putting it together and completing the build. So I'll stop the video here and we'll pick up in the next one.